Revenue Forum is a non-profit initiative started by me in 2008. Currently, we organize webinars. We hold these on Thursdays every other month. We also have half-day seminars in 12 cities in 10 countries. And the coming seminars will be held in Gothenburg, Copenhagen, and Stockholm on the 5th to the 7th of September. More information to come at the end of this webinar. Taktikon also organizes a whole-day event under the brand name Global Revenue Forum. This is a unique hybrid event held simultaneously online as well as physically in Stockholm, London, and Milan. Hold the date for the coming one on the 30th of January 2024. Also here, more information to come at the end of this webinar. The topic of this episode is how the hotel industry can become a sustainable one. And we have invited an expert panelist consisting of companies BEONx and Moder, sustainability expert from Greentime, and 2 hotel representatives coming from STF and Fagerudd to show their insights. Participants to this webinar are a broad mix of listeners from all over the world. There are hotels ranging from 2 to 5-star, independent and large brands. We'll try to make this coming hours as inspiring to you all. Before we present our speakers, some logistics regarding questions and answers. Please feel free to ask us any questions you might have. We will use these during the discussion forum at the end of this webinar. You will find the Q&A button at the top or at the bottom of your screen. Please ask your questions to all panelists. If you have a question you would like to ask to a specific speaker, please state his or her name. This session is recorded and we will send you the link as soon as possible after the webinar. Now, without further ado, let's introduce our speakers of today. Our expert panel this time consists of expert speakers who each get 5 to 10 minutes to talk. After that, we will have an interview with our special guests. But let me start with the introductions of the speakers, and especially then in the beginning myself. My name is Anna-Marie Kubanski. Apart from organizing of revenue forums, I am founder and CEO for Taktikon Consultancy, which is a consultancy offering revenue management outsourcing and tax investigations. We also have a soft brand called Taktikon Hotels for independent hotels who would like to remain independent together with us. Now let's see if we can get to know something more about the next speaker, Simon.
Yeah, hi, my name is Simon. I will speak about trends and sustainability. I'm working as a sustainability expert, I should say, nowadays. So that's me. You will hear much more from me soon.
Hello, my name is Matti Ala-Outinen from Moder. I will be talking to you about how to take sustainability to the heart of hospitality tech.
Hi everyone. First of all, thanks for joining this webinar. My name is Wolfgang Hanreich. I will speak about profitability meets sustainability, and you will hear much more from me later on.
And you will hear from me as well. My name is Sebastian Tarkowski. I'm here on account of Fagerudd, a very small conferencing facility and hotel in the middle of nowhere.
Hi everyone, my name is Skog. I'm head of sustainability at the Swedish Tourist Association. I'm the 5th guy with quite short hair, and today I will explain why I love sustainable tourism.
Well, thank you all for that. Let's see if we are ready for our first speaker. Simon, well, I'll leave the coming minutes up to you.
Thank you very much. I'm so pleased to be here. My name is Simon. I've been working with sustainability for, I should say it's more than 10 years now, but I've been into the both event industry and also hotel industry. I'll give you my thoughts. I will give you just my own reflections and trends. And please feel free to contact me. I'm doing this by Greentime, the company which I'm CEO of. So basically, I've done a lot of different kind of missions. I've been with the Olympic Committee. I've been with it. Well, I've been helping a World Championship in handball. I've also been an auditor, checking out hotels, watching their specifically environmental work, and also been responsible for the sustainability work in many different kind of companies. But right now, This company which I'm running is called Greentime. I'm not going to talk about this, but what we actually do most of the days is that we are supporting planners of bigger events to act more sustainable. Both have a tool where you can get a better view of sustainability, measuring your sustainability work in a good way to actually push the planners of making more sustainable events, and also a certification which might go abroad to Denmark next year. So this is what we are offering, but also a hell lot of consultancy work. So I'm going to give you my thoughts. And so this is basically, if we look back 10 years, I had to ask when I was out holding lectures, I've been holding over like 500 lectures. I had to offer a lot of time to answer the question, why should we act more? Why should we work with sustainability? That's not an issue anymore. Today, it's more, how do we do it? Okay, we know it's important, but how do we do it? But also, you must know that it's a complex world. We must also know the facts. We must rely on the scientists. And the scientists, they are all agreed that we must do much more. Working with sustainability, often we use the triple bottom line, the three pillars, both the environmental, the social, and the economic side. This is also what we do in Greentime, and also what I can see that many companies and different kind of companies are working. They're working with the global goals, because the global goals is a framework that really works well until 2030. It's something that you can actually touch on. You can almost feel how you can contribute to that actual target. But basically, it's just taking care of the environment and also taking care of the people living on this planet. And to be able to do that, we have money to be able to do things for us humans or the planet. This is how we work with event. How we don't just use our power to be able to make the planners act more sustainable with the environmental questions. It's also about the social aspects all the time. And with the social aspects, I mean, such as transparency, such as gender, availability, and so on. These are questions that will come more and more. I'm really, that's my thought, that's my opinion. I could tell you a lot about this, since I'm by myself also have a master of science in environmental science. I really liked following diagrams and so on. I could easily tire you with a whole day of just showing you diagrams, but we are really aware of that, and all the scientists, they are agreed that we have really high amount of carbon emissions in the atmosphere. You can actually measure it. You can see it long back ago. You can actually see it the last few years. Although we have the pandemic behind us, the emissions, they are still increasing. You can actually see it each day by day. This is June now, 2023. We have had the record now in May also in the carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. We know this. And also the scientists here in Sweden, which I live, the scientists, they're going to the government and saying, this is not enough. You're ignoring the research. And that's also my view, that we have all the facts, we have everything, we have the solutions, but still it's going really slow. Of course, we have different things around us in the world that's happening, but still we have the facts, we have the opportunities, and we have also the solutions. So why doesn't it happen? I'm going to give you 3 good news though, because I want to share. I'm a quite optimistic guy. I want to see the future as something, as a possibility, something to actually achieve. And we have great news, such as that the United States now have, like Biden did, instead of Trump, where subsidies went to oil and gas, and the subsidies goes to renewable resources, which makes this a bit complex, because right now a lot of companies within the European Union, they are watching, maybe we should move to America instead, because it's going to get cheaper there. They're giving us support to be able to fund our own company. So right now, so let's see what Ursula von der Leyen and the other guys say here in Europe. But it's a competition, I should say, a good competition. But the European Union, we have still this Fit for 55-hour goals with the carbon dioxide. We're still holding on to the target, which is very good. Although we have an energy crisis and so on, we still have the target and we're still trying to achieve it, which is very, very good. But also, I should say, because of the energy crisis, we also have a lot of investments. The coming 2 years now, there are plans of investment in renewable resources coming up to the same amount that we have invested so far the 20 years back in time. There's a lot of investments going on right now, which is good. Is it too late? I'm not sure, but this is the competition to be able to put down the emissions. So basically, the global goals. This is a great framework, and a lot of hotels, a lot of venues, a lot of event planners, at least in Sweden, also abroad, I see they're using it more and more. This is a language we speak of what we should achieve. So this is a trend. If you don't know the global goals, give some time and dive into it, because other both companies and different actors in the public sector, they're using it right now. A bit too late, but I can see in Sweden, this is just the last few years. Right now, they're taking plans out to 2030. So the municipalities, the regions here, they are using the framework, and they are also talking about the social aspects, not only the environmental ones. But the companies, they've done it far, far away. I mean, they did this 10 years ago, so they're up to it because they have demands on them. You should act more sustainable, and they're not doing it just for fun, because, of course, I mean, if you're a person who is deciding on a company why we should work with sustainability, you have a lot of pressure on the company. Why should you do it? Of course, the customers, the employees, and so on. But the laws and regulations, I wanted to give you just a few thoughts about the regulations, the coming laws, because this is a way of pushing companies, at least in Europe, to act more sustainable. So the laws and regulations is something that is really discussing right now. So in the end of June, there is going to be a decision of how this new framework will be formed. It's called CSRD, Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive, which is not new for the big companies because they've already been reporting sustainability. But they want to update this because it's quite unclear how you measure it. But the CSRD making sense 2024 for bigger companies will also go into smaller companies by 2026, 2027, meaning that different kind of small companies, even smaller, must be able to report how they work with sustainability to the bigger companies that have this demand on them. So the CSRD is coming up now, and it's for the bigger companies for more than 500 employees. Of course, it's bigger companies, but this will, I'm sure of that this will spill over. I'm hearing a lot of CSRD right now. It's both the social and the environmental aspects or the effects of it. And if you speak about how you report your climate work, it's both scope 1, 2, and 3. And scope 3 is actually when you buy something far, far away. You should be able to look into this particular material that you bought in, and you should be able to track it down at least to all the people working with in the fabric and so on. So it's pushing the limits. It's pushing the what you should do. And it's also something very important here is that the sustainability report shouldn't just be one paper by itself. It must be included in the annual report for the big companies. So this is a quite great deal. And this is coming ahead, I should say, within the 2 or 3 years coming for bigger companies. In other words, also the EU taxonomy is something that's been discussing a lot when I speak to my colleagues around the world. The EU taxonomy, it's also a framework of what kind of areas should we report in. So the areas, this is just the environmental side, but we have the human rights. We have also how we should measure in economic terms, how we should work with transparency to avoid bribes and so on. But these 6 areas is something that you must be able to show as a company within a few years how you work with it. Climate change, the adaptation to it, water and marine resources, circular economy, also the pollution and the ecosystems. So this is coming just around the corner. Working with bigger hotels, working together with Sebastian and others, I see a lot of good examples of how you actually can take a stand and actually do things to be able to show the customers that this is the best option for me. This is the best thing I should do. And it's also environmental friendly and also good for the humans. So I will give, I'm really looking forward to the other guys contributing with solutions. This is just me getting a picture of the trends and what I see within the hotel industry and also events. And as a last thing, I should say also that all the federations, say handball and so on, they are pushing all of these big federations, they're pushing the sustainability questions further on to the bigger events. So the bigger events, they must work with it. But this is also coming within just a few years. So a lot of things are happening. Sustainability is the shit still. Thank you very much for your listening. Yes, sorry. This is also one of the things we're doing together with Sebastian and the other guys. We have this chef training of how to be able to make better vegetarian food in Sweden, to be able to show like how can you do it in a good way. So that's basically for me. So thank you very much for your time. Thank you, Anna-Marie, for giving me the option. Thanks.
No, thank you very much, Simon. It was incredibly interesting. And I think also, yes, the industry has to do more and is going to have to do more, but I think also customers are asking for this sustainability coming from the hotel industry. So let's see if we can go into the solutions then in that case. And we have a few tech solutions that are coming right up. Let's first talk to Matti from Moder. Matti, please introduce yourself and what does Moder do?
Thank you, Anne-Marie. It's really nice to be here. I'm Matti Ala-Outinen. I'm the CEO and co-founder of travel tech house Moder, which is all you need product for hotels and resort management. So in essence, a modern PMS. Before that, I am a 3rd generation travel business entrepreneur. So me and my family own a resort in Nuuksio near Helsinki. And that's sort of where my outlook on sustainability has built. 2018, we decided that we will use our company to fight climate change. And we decided, for example, that if money and sustainability are at odds, sustainability will win. So that has led us on a path from calculating CO2 emissions at our family company to a point where in 4 years we have doubled our revenue, but our emissions have stayed the same. So we have been, for example, able to disconnect growth and CO2 emissions, and that has been through switching the whole logic of how to approach travel business. On the side, regarding taking sustainability into the heart of hospitality technology, we found out that there are a lot of connections between operating a resort and a hotel and the sustainability practices, how you do it. And that's what I'm here to tell you about. So let's get the show on the road. So as I stated, when we started building Moder, in the core was sustainability. It was something that we wanted to incorporate in the system itself. When we were doing sustainable practices in our resort ourselves, and I was helping other companies, we noticed at the same time that there's a lot of connections between the core PMS system and other hospitality technology and the sustainable practices. And we sort of saw logic to combine them. Currently, we see that the hospitality technologies is pretty fragmented. When it was built, like in the 80s and 90s, there was no focus on sustainability. Air travel was booming and hotels were being built. And no one sort of thought about how sustainability, well, the whole question wasn't asked back then. But now that we're asking it, we're sort of seeing that there's a problem how to find the right solution. I think the core problem is that sustainability isn't at the core of hospitality business. Many companies don't see it as a real core value. It's something that we sort of have to do a bit, but it's not like a driving force. Also, in some companies they are. Sustainability tools also are sort of designed as add-ons. They're separate worksheets. They're sustainability is a project that you do. So you sort of need a holistic approach to this. Hospitality business in itself is a layered business. And there are like many aspects on running a hospitality business. So the technology and the solution should also be a holistic one that can approach all the aspects of the business that you're running for it to be sustainable. So you can't just pick one point and be sustainable there. It's not enough. It doesn't sort of incorporate the whole thing. And as Simon earlier told us about sustainability, it's not just about CO2 emissions or environment. It's also your social impact. It's also your economic impact and longevity. So that's one part why it is key that the sustainable technology approach should be holistic and not like we're fixing this point here or we're fixing this, because also sustainability isn't simple in a way. But for this to be scalable and we make an impact in the world, it needs to be practical. It needs to be easy to access. And in the end, it also should be profitable for it to make sense to the travel businesses and the industry as a whole. So that's what we are trying to build here, an easy to access practical approach for the whole sustainability thing built into your core system. We see that one of the core systems running hospitality business in general is the PMS system. Many, and it's sort of a driving force there. When we build hospitality sustainability metrics, build practical tools like CO2 emission calculations, and also the commercial side, showing what you have been done in the sales funnels, then you can sort of build a holistic approach to this issue. The bottom line, in a way, is that this is the right thing to do. Like we should default to sustainability in our lives if we want to live here for long enough, so we don't mess everything up. So this should be a no-brainer, but we sort of feel that it's difficult to do the right thing in a sustainable way because it feels quite complicated in many ways. And that's what we are trying to do with technology. Bring a tool that can refocus us in travel business for our travelers, for ourselves as employees, for our businesses, and in a bigger picture to help well, the whole earth survive and be more sustainable, and sort of building a better future through technology. And we think we can do that. And in order for this to work, we need the right tools and technology. We also need people to work together and this to be sort of a common goal for all of us. But I believe we can turn travel businesses and the whole travel industry into a sustainable one. And maybe we can be the forerunners for other industries and lead the way to a brighter future. And that's what we're trying to do with Moder when we're bringing sustainability at the heart of travel technology. Thank you.
No, thank you. Actually, you brought me back to quite some time in the beginning. I mean, I think in my time in Strandvik, that was like early 20s, I think. I mean, their sustainability work had nothing to do with the fact that they wanted to save the planet. It had to do with the fact that they just wanted to save money. And I think it's one of the nice things about it. It works both ways, right? And I like the fact that we finally have some good technology to help us in this holistic approach. Thank you so much. Now let's see if we can have our next technology vendor, Wolfgang, to see what it is more technology-wise we can do. Wolfgang, are you happy? Are you ready? It's your first webinar, I heard, right?
Do I look happy? Yeah.
Yes, you
I'm
do.
not sure. Yes, I am happy. Happy to speak to all of you. Yes, it's true. It's my first webinar, so I'm a bit excited and very looking forward to have my first Kutsche here. About me, my name is Wolfgang. I'm the Director of Sales for the Northern European region here at BEONx. And it's true, I just want to connect to what you just said, Annemarie. With sustainability measures, it's good to save money in the long run, but what we are also breaking our head with is how could we earn more money with being sustainable? And this is more or less exactly what we are working on at the moment. BEONx is a sustainable profitability platform. We are coming from revenue management. So what we have is a revenue management system helping through AI hoteliers to earn more, to gain more profits. And today I want to speak about how we can link profitability with sustainability. So I don't want to take more time, actually. Annemarie, I would be ready to go. So as BEONx, we come from a revenue management background. And as the Director of Sales, I'm actually not an expert in sustainability. I want to speak about sustainable profitability, and I want to point out how sustainability could help us to make more revenues, to make more profits. So what I will be talking about is revenues, profits, and how sustainability can be profitable for hotels if we link it also with revenue management. There are many different challenges when we think about that, but I want to highlight 3 different challenges today. Sustainability is perceived as a cost. So hoteliers do maybe not understand why they should invest in it when they just see long-term benefits. Certification standards, they vary from country to country, and it's very hard to start comparing on a broader level. And sustainability as a lever for profitability is very hard to be understood if we cannot start benchmarking between the different organizations and what they're investing in sustainability as such. So hoteliers are under pressure. Massive inflation is eating up their profit bottom line, and they do not really understand the benefits because they think that all these measures are connected with long-term benefits, but that's not the case. Sustainability can be profitable from the very beginning in the short run. It's just about how can we understand what is the direct return of investing in this. So it's not a cost, it should be an investment. To highlight this, I want to speak about one of our clients, Castilla Termal. They are on the journey for already 10 years, and they could see a direct impact from the very beginning. Why? Because they could open up to customer segments which were simply keen to stay in sustainable properties, and they were also willing to pay more. Due to this, their reputation was increasing. Due to this, their market perception was increasing, and they could open up to even more occupancy and to even more demand. By using a technology like BEONx, they were able to measure this increase with our proprietary algorithm, the Hotel Quality Index. So we could help them to measure this impact from a quality perspective, which was already very powerful. And with our AI platform, they were then able to optimize the most profitable segments, where they found out that actually the segments who are very keen to stay in sustainable properties are very keen to pay more for their stays. So they definitely hit the point there. And in the long run, now they save so much more energy than their competitors, and bottom line, they make more profits. Second challenge, the certification standards, they vary. Hoteliers are overwhelmed. I was just recently in Germany, and I was so happy how well received this topic is. But at the end, we always come to this question, who should be my provider for the certification? Everyone has different criteria, so it becomes very difficult to compare them with each other and ultimately to compare sustainable hotels with each other. Because once we could benchmark them, like we are benchmarking now with quality, then we could start to really measure what could be my profitable output from it. Cornell University already started with how to benchmark sustainability measures, and big chains are already on it. So we are thinking like, how can we bring this to independent hotels, to hotel groups? So when you start working with BEONx, you will actually get in touch with BioScore, and if you're a sustainable hotel, they will give you the certification, because we think that once we have enough hotels on a certain certification, we could start comparing them with each other like we do it right now with quality. And then the hoteliers can see a direct impact and can start monetizing on their investments from the very beginning. And this would be actually our contribution to how to make the hospitality industry more sustainable by simply attracting hoteliers that it is very profitable to invest in this right now, because you can have a direct return of your investments from the beginning if we are able to measure it. And also, as a closing thing, we speak at many webinars and events, and we always speak about breaking silos. And with sustainability, actually, we just created another silo where nobody sometimes knows what they are doing. So once we manage to streamline this, where the revenue manager becomes a profit manager, sees all the different costs and investments and can connect the dots, then we can truly connect profitability with sustainability and build a future where hotel industry thrives while preserving the planet and minimize the risks. So the hospitality should be about welcoming the future, not depleting it. A sustainable hotel isn't just good for environment, it's good for business. And we definitely encourage everyone to get in the discussion with us. Let's speak about it. Let's make it measurable. Let's make it comparable so that everybody can get the return they deserve from their investments. Okay, I have 10 seconds left. So thank you so much for this. And whatever questions you have, I really encourage you, get in touch with us and let's speak about that. Thank you.
No, thank you. Wolfgang, if I understand you correctly, what you're trying to do is like set up a certificate which hotels can get by using your platform. Is that how I'm...
So what we understand is right now, maybe everyone is certified under different certifications, right? That's great and it's very good. So it's difficult to compare because everyone has different standards from this provider. So what we just say is start working with us, and what we include in this package is the certification by our partner, just in order to get enough hotels certified in theory on the same certification, because then we could start benchmarking, at least for our clients. And we think that's very exciting, to be honest. I'm very excited about that.
Yeah, understandably so. Thank you so much. I might have some more questions about that, but then maybe let's go over to our next speaker. Sebastian.
Yes, I'm
yes,
here.
you are. Hello. Well, maybe we can start with, you can tell a little bit more about yourself, your background, and about Fagerudd.
Of course. My name is Sebastian Tarkowski, and together with my wife, I manage, as you mentioned before, a rather small conferencing facility and hotel in the middle of Sweden. And the place is called Fagerudd. Neither me nor my wife had any previous experience of running a hotel before we embarked on this adventure together some 4 years ago. But I mean, how hard could it be? And then sort of COVID hit us, and well, let's not talk about that anymore. But my wife is a teacher, and I have a background in consultancy. My previous role was I worked with brand strategy, business development, and also innovation. And it is the nature of a consultant to believe that we can do anything better. Otherwise, we wouldn't exist as a business. So, I mean, that was the premises on which we started our whole venture together. And if everything failed, my thought was always, I'll just leave it to my wife, because if she as a teacher can make 30 young people in a classroom work in the same direction, she should be able to handle a hotel with around 15 employees. It's a piece of cake, right? But let me just mention something about Fagerudd as a place also. Fagerudd would translate to something like pretty peninsula, which is quite accurate. We're surrounded by water on 3 sides, and then we have a natural reserve on the 4th. And I so wish that having a pretty surroundings would be enough to sell the crap out of this place. But the problem is that every hotel, every conferencing facility has pretty surroundings. I mean, that's the whole reason why we're there. So I need to find something else that I can market myself with. And our expertise is really that we want to make meetings better, because we believe that that's the core reason why our guests come to us in the first place. They do not come to us for the surroundings. They come because they have an important mission that they want to resolve one way or the other in a meeting. So we create conditions for better meetings. And I could talk for hours about how you make meetings better and more meaningful, because honestly, most people suck at meetings. But that's not why I'm here today. Obviously, we're here to talk about sustainability, which is equally important. And even more so, I'm here to talk about how we actually make sustainability. Because what I notice a lot is people talk about, we need to do sustainability. We need tools to make sustainability. We need metrics to make sustainability. But what does it actually mean in practicality? And I'm proud to share that we were nominated to one of the most prestigious awards in the Swedish business industry, the Swedish Meeting Awards, for our sustainability initiative, which I will come back to. But that's it.
Thank you. Well, maybe I like your intake on the practical part. So maybe if we just like start with the low-hanging fruits, like the easier thing to do, what would you say? What can hotels do better, or what low-hanging fruits do they have?
Well, clearly, let's clear the ground literally by removing the lowest hanging fruit of all. Single-use items and packaging. It's so low, it's actually already on the ground, and if you don't remove it, you'll risk tripping over it. So it's a no-brainer. And yet I'm so surprised that when I travel, especially internationally, I still find those super cute little jam jars on the breakfast buffet. And on my room, I will find those super soft, comfortable one-time use slippers that are plastic wrapped on my bed. And come on, it's just stupid. So let's once and for all agree to get rid of the notion that wasteful behavior is the equivalent to luxury. There's no such connection at all. I mean, the most expensive paintings, the most luxurious paintings are not wrapped in plastics, and you use them forever, basically. And this is actually extra ironic, because I claim that the hotel industry is actually the original circular economy business. When staying in a hotel, you actually do use the same towel, the same bed, the same plate, the same knife and forks as every other guest before you, right? One of the few things you can actually be certain of when you go to a hotel is that someone has had sex in your bed before you. And this is why it becomes extra weird when some hotels seem to think that people wouldn't tolerate sharing the same jar of jam or using the same sort of bottle of shampoo. So again, I think that other businesses should actually learn from the hotel industry and how to be more circular. I even think there's a business idea here. Let's start right now. There could be an app service renting bed linen and bedclothes to your home instead. It could be called the Bedly, and you can download the app by scanning the QR code down in the corner here. I mean, it's super easy. Just go ahead and fire away.
Thank you for that. Well, maybe we can also say, okay, that we have low-hanging fruits, very, very, very low-hanging fruits, and we have like small packages. But then would that be just like also, would you be able to tell a bit more about the bigger questions? What would you say is most important for the hotel industry to focus on?
Okay, so I would say there are 3 things to focus on, 3 big things. Number one, obviously, is how we travel to and from our hotels. I know this is a big thing. I know there's a lot of discussions going on. I'm not sure, however, whether this is for the hotel industry to resolve, other than potentially that we should talk more about, inspire and suggest that you should get to us in a more environmentally friendly way. But the travel industry needs to sort of sort that out themselves. But the number one point is to talk about how to get to you in a smarter way. Go by train. We can help you arrange a bus, etc. Number two, and this is a big number two, and this is the one that always comes up when you start measuring, and it's temperature. So the biggest impact on the hotel industry footprint is related to increasing temperature or lowering temperature, heating things up or cooling things down. And that's exactly why hotels put up those small signs in your bathroom telling you to reuse your towel once again, because cleaning your towel actually costs a lot of resources that we could save otherwise. But my problem with this is why the hotel industry has chosen to focus so much on the towel when it would make an even bigger impact if you would shower for, let's say, 2 or 3 minutes shorter time. I don't know how many of you out there do this when you get to shower. You start the shower and then you start undressing and then you go back into the shower. It's still not warm and you keep undressing because God forbid that you should ever be touched by a tiny small drip of cold water. I mean, who hasn't done that? Raise your hands. Now that I see your clean, beautiful hands, I notice that you probably also start the water running before you wash your hands, because even your hands are too fancy for being hit by cold water. I mean, so really focus on the right things there. So working with your energy consumption and nudging other behaviors is definitely a low-hanging fruit, especially if you're in a country where your energy doesn't come from fossil-free sources. So temperature is number two, or it's number one because it's the biggest, or it would be the biggest if it was true. The biggest one, and is one that we don't talk a lot about, and I think we don't talk about it because we don't like hearing it, because we are restaurateurs from the beginning, and what we do as restaurateurs is that we serve meat. But the problem is that if you take a hotel that's medium-sized and it has most of its energy coming from fossil-free sources, meat consumptions, and particularly red meat, is by far the biggest carbon footprint. But it's 3 times as big or 5 times as big, depending on how efficient your energy production is. So I think that we need to talk more about producing vegetarian food, and this is one thing that we've actually done at Fagerudd. So we serve vegetarian lunches by default. So when you come to us, and if you don't tell us in advance that I want the meat alternative, you get the vegetarian dish. It's exactly as normal, only the other way around. And so far, it's worked really, really well for us. And the reason why we're doing this, the question is, does it really make a difference? Does this have an impact on things? We've calculated the footprint of a standard Swedish lunch dish, which would be a piece of red meat and a gravy-based or dairy-based sauce. It's a typical Swedish household food. And the carbon footprint of that would be roughly 4 kilos of carbon dioxide equivalents, whereas a vegetarian dish is roughly 1 kilo, depending on how you produce it, 1 kilo or less. But we've calculated by doing this, serving vegetarian by default, we've lowered our carbon footprint on average by about 2 kilos per dish. Last year, we served 12,000 lunches. 80% of our guests chose to keep the vegetarian option. They chose not to order meat, and that made us serve a total of 19 tons of carbon dioxide equivalents. And that's a huge saving for a small enterprise like ours. Yeah. So to be honest, number 3 is obviously serve less meat, and to rephrase it a bit here, the lowest hanging fruit is actually to eat the fruit instead of the piece of meat. So to summarize all this, the 3 big ones are travel, temperature, and let's say tofu, to keep them all on the letter T, so you'll remember this.
Thank you so much, Sebastian. This was cool. Thank you. I have a few questions about breaking silos and maybe just like best practice sharing, but we can maybe just keep that one for the discussion panel, if I'm allowed to. I think maybe we can go over to Daniel. Daniel, let's also start with you. Could you tell a little bit more about yourself, your background, and about where you work?
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Daniel Skog, and I'm the head of sustainability at the Swedish Tourist Association. And I think when Anna-Marie asked me what I find important and why I am where I am today working with sustainability within this sector, I kind of tried to recall how I all ended up here. And it was actually, I think, in 2005, when me and my brothers decided we should try to climb the highest peak of Sweden, which is called Kebnekaise. It's a mountain roughly 2,000 meters above sea level. And we had just an amazing tour, which by chance was arranged by the Swedish Tourist Association. But what I really remember from that tour was when the guide who took us up on this glacier explained to us this was then the highest peak of Sweden, but soon it will not be anymore because the glacier is melting due to the human activities of the climate emissions that we do emit. So actually, and today it has happened. So the peaks of the highest mountain in Sweden changed in 2019, which means that today the Kebnekaise peak south is no longer the highest mountain in Sweden. And I kind of brought that story in the back of my head for many years. And then actually when STF asked someone to apply for being head of sustainability, I was really keen to raise my hand because this was really something that combined the different interests that I do have. And I mean, to be working for a non-profit membership organization based with 228,000 members who just love to travel in a sustainable way, and especially love to travel to the 250 different accommodations that we have around in Sweden, all from the small tiny huts up in the mountains or in the forest in the south of Sweden to really quite large hotels with big restaurants and conference facilities. So it's quite a broad variety, which I really enjoy working with. And sustainability is really so different when you go to the small ones, when you go to the large ones, and still we have things in common. So I love to see the dedication for sustainability among all our accommodations and all the staff around us. So that's a great place to be.
Thank you. When you raise your hands, I presume it was a clean one, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, when we spoke before, you talked about something called sustainability pledge. Would you be able to tell us more about that?
Yes, absolutely. We did an integrated system in 2016, which we called the Sustainability Pledge. And this is something that we, as an accommodation actor, we promise to deliver on sustainability towards our guests. So we say that we pledge to always supply our accommodations with renewable energy. We should always serve this and that in an organic manner and so on. But also the kind of things that you sometimes seems to forget, that we as an employer always should make sure that we pay fair wages to our staff. We as a big actor on the Swedish market, we should always try to engage with the local communities where we are, try to support the local entrepreneurs, the local actors, the local store that can provide with groceries and everything what it could be. So the sustainability pledge is both on the organic and ecological matters, but also on the social and economical matters. And then we put a few years in trying to get everyone to really adopt this. And in 2019, we were finished. All the 250 accommodations in STF did apply to the sustainability pledge. So then we said it's time to level this up. So in 2021, we tried to incorporate Agenda 2030, which was still almost new by then. I tried to apply the 17 goals into our system. And also we tried to see what is missing. And when we talked to her, it was quite interesting because we had a big workshops and big discussions with our staff and with all the hosts on the different accommodations, say, what are you missing in the pledge? And two of the things they said was public health. How can we as a travel and tourism actor also bring a positive impact into public health by trying to improve how people move themselves, go hiking, go bicycling, go on culture events by foot instead of by car and so on. So that's something we included. But also that sustainability is not something that we can do in a one-directed manner as a host. This is also something that the guest needs to deliver on. The guest needs to actually adopt the system. If we provide a system for, say, recycling, the guest needs to use that system for recycling. It's a two-way matter, sustainability. So we also introduced what is the guest responsibility, and that was quite interesting, I think.
Guests are really willing to work with the various hotels, right? We might just talk about that a little bit further on when we go into our discussion panel. But then you also talked about influence politics. So can you tell a bit more about how you work in that perspective?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, Sebastian mentioned the transport of guests is really, sometimes we call it the elephant in the room, or the climate elephant, we even call it within my organization, because the travel emissions are probably the largest ones when it comes to climate emissions. But we also see, as Sebastian mentioned, that sometimes it's hard for us to influence how the transport system is working. So we are trying, as a membership organization, we're trying to influence the entire transport system of our country, Sweden. So what we do is really, we have a quite tight contact with politicians, with authorities, and trying to push the transport sector in front of us. How can we make it easier and more attractive to transport in a sustainable way? And I mean, in practice, often this is public transport. How can we make it easier and more attractive for tourists to take the public transport? And the public transport is often designed for the people going for work or for school. It's not designed for tourists, because the school bus, for example, is running very early in the morning and then one bus home in the afternoon. It's very tricky for the tourist who arrives Friday evening and want to stay over the weekend and getting back late Sunday afternoon, say, for example. But what we also do is we try to make sure that it's easier to cross the borders between the regions in the country. Because often nowadays it is when you visit, or when you transfer or stepping over a border between the regions, you need to get a new app on your cell phone, you need to put a new contract, you need to understand which zone am I entering, how much should I pay for my ticket. And by trying to remove all these obstacles, we're making it easier to use the public transport also for tourists. And I think that's a quite important task we have in front of us. And we also see this when it comes to especially train travel. We see that almost every fourth guest arrives via train to our accommodation. So it's a very high number also for being Sweden. But we see that many guests find it tricky to book the train trip. And they also want to plan their vacation perhaps a year in advance, but then the train ticket will only be released a few weeks before they actually can go on the trip. So we are trying to influence both the train rail operators, but also the authorities who actually plan the railroad constructions, because they need to plan all the railroad construction much more advanced, so actually can release the train tickets so people can book their accommodation and the train trip at the same time.
I think ultimately, I think Simon was into it. It's a political question, and I think also it's like as Wolfgang mentioned, and I think you also go into it. It's a cooperation between everybody, right? I mean, if you look at Sweden, I mean, I can't use the same train card at the other side of Sweden only. I mean, talk about making it difficult also for us travelers. But I think this is very much of an EU question. I think Simon also talked a little bit about it, but would you be able to tell me what do you know about how the EU works with these questions?
Absolutely, you're absolutely right, because I mean, many of the national laws and policies that we see that sometimes are obstacles for us are actually based on EU policies or directives from the beginning, but also many of the good things is coming from the EU. For example, right now they have been debating the rail passengers' rights and obligations in the EU Parliament. And what we can see there is very much better compensation and security rights for train passengers coming up within the entire European Union. And this will be very positive in the perspective that I, as a train traveler, I should really be able to demand the same rights as an air traveler can demand today, in terms of if you are delayed or if your flight or your train will be canceled and these kind of things. And we also see very positive EU regulation coming up now that every train actually will hold at least 4 bicycles, because we know a lot of tourists like to bring the bicycles on their trips. And this is very, very different depending on which country you're from. In many countries, this is absolutely standard that you can bring a bicycle on the train. In Sweden, it's definitely not a standard. So in this case, the European Union is pushing Sweden in front of it. And very soon, the Swedish largest operators will need to be able to actually carry bicycles on the train. But I also find one thing I'm really looking at right now is the upcoming directive from the European Union on package travel and linked travel arrangements. Because what we can see today is when you are trying as an operator, you're trying to sell accommodation, transport, and perhaps a guide at the same thing, then it's a package travel. And this means that you are in charge of everything. So if you sell a train ticket to a guest with accommodations, for example, you are in charge or responsible if that train will be delayed. And this makes it really problematic for us as arranger that we perhaps don't want to sell train tickets because of these packaging deals. So I really hope there is supposed to be an upcoming refreshment of this directive, and I really hope they will look into the sustainability of this as well.
Remember, I'm Dutch. I mean, if you say that bikes on the train, it's like, for us, it's like only 4. Can't do
Exactly.
that. But I think also, I mean, you need to, I mean, there's also this bigger picture. I mean, you need to make it a little bit better for bikers to bike in this country, because I mean, the biking roads are just like quite small. Thank you for that. Thank you so much. I think it's an interesting question, and I think especially like EU, yes, it really has a role to play in this. I think I would like to go back to this cooperation together, the breaking the silos. Maybe let's go from a hotel perspective. Sebastian, would you know anything? Would there be like a best practice sharing, or maybe even Simon, because you work quite a lot with hotels, right?
Yes, I do. But I should say that at Sebastian's place, I think one very simple way of doing things is to reuse things instead of buying new things. It's quite simple. When you're just looking into it, you're in a state of mind that you should buy something new, and you should refresh. You should just get rid of the old furnitures, and you should buy new ones. But instead, you can just reuse the old ones, and you can save a lot of money and actually do something about it and make it feel better also, which is more sustainable for the environment, which is also saving money. And you're talking about it. That's something very good that Sebastian and his colleagues has done at Fagerudd. I should also mention different ways of pushing people to not be able to always take some kind of decision, because we want to do things as quick as possible, as easy as possible, and sometimes you must lead also the customers in this. For instance, the vegetarian food, you shouldn't say like eat vegetarian because of the environment. You should say this is the best meat. This is not the best meat. This is the best menu. This is what we serve today. Really recommend it. Of course, I take it as a customer. It's easiest to go by train to us. It's easier because of this, and this. This pushes. It's a lot of communication in this, but we need to get the customers to actually make the decision right, the best decision, which feels best for them in the moment.
Thank you, Sebastian. Did you have something to add?
Yeah. I totally agree with Simon, and I think what we're doing right now in this very forum is that we're doing what needs to be done. We're talking about what we're doing. We're bragging about what we're doing. But I mean, and we need to keep doing that. We need to keep talking about our sustainability efforts until it becomes irrelevant, because that's when we've changed the norms. Because honestly, it's totally ridiculous that we keep on telling people, I did something sustainable today. Look at me, I did something sustainable. That should be standard. It should be rather, oh, I'm so sorry, I had to do something unsustainable today. I really couldn't avoid it because of this and this and this. So I think just keep normalizing. And of course, we need to make sure that the options are really more attractive than sort of the unsustainable solution currently is. And I think that, for instance, when we serve vegetarian food, we can't replace a piece of meat with a piece of vegetable. What we've done is our chefs had to reconstruct our entire menus from bottom up and basically relearn certain skills, because when serving vegetarian food, we need to make sure that they look good, they taste good, they taste a lot, they have different flavors, they have different textures, they need to be crunchy and soft and smooth and chewy to keep them interesting. And honestly, that's the only way we can do it. So it has to be fun, it has to be collaborative, and well, that's how we do it. And one day we won't have to have this discussion anymore, and that's what I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, totally agree with you. Matti, sorry, I've been ignoring you. You would like to add something as well?
Yeah, just a quick note. I fully agree with Sebastian and Simon also. We also at Hawkhill had to sort of, our chefs needed to relearn stuff because it's different. You don't want to imitate meat, you want to do good food. But I've noticed that it's also a technology thing. That aspect sort of, you need to have a tool where you can rent stuff out, where you can cooperate with the area's other companies and sort of build attractive availability on a smaller, like a resort, or as Sebastian, you said that you are far away from everything. You probably want to cooperate with everyone in the area. So it's also a technological problem to how to cooperate or integrate with other companies, and also with other platforms like train tickets or well, hopefully not flight tickets, but that's something, one reason why we built, for example, in Moder, cross-selling, so you can sell each other's products, so you can cooperate. I felt as a travel entrepreneur that we had been missing sort of the feature. I want to cooperate with them. I would like to build packages that include my accommodation, their canoes, and their accommodation on top of that. Then we can sort of make the stays longer, make them more sustainable. So that's sort of one angle we have approached it, to sort of enable sustainable business within the community and other companies.
Yeah, and like the way you're talking, I think ultimately it is a matter of just like working together. EU has a role to play in it, but we ourselves. And sometimes I just like hear people say like, okay, well, I can't do anything on my own, so I can't do anything. And that's, I think, is a little bit of a miss from us all. Maybe also another angle, I think, Wolfgang, you talked about attracting new demand segments. Now, do you really believe that people are willing to pay more if a hotel has a sustainability policies in place?
Absolutely. I mean, I think there are studies which prove that already. And when you think about Gen Z, for example, they are now eco warriors, and they're really gonna have a look at that, and they're gonna be the next bookers who will have the money to really afford what they want to. And it's very important that you attract future segments as well. Then think about corporate accounts. There are so many companies which are not allowed to stay anymore in any hotel which is not sustainable, because they simply have the regulation, because they have a sustainable culture now. So there is a need and there is an opportunity. And yes, we definitely believe that 100%.
Thank you. Daniel, last question to you, and I think actually this is the EU thing. What can we do from our part, from our side to influence more influential people?
I think we need to speak up, and I think we need to do it jointly. We need to take our arms together and actually see what we can combine. And I think it's really interesting, for example, what Matti says about how can we make it easier by technical means to actually package different kind of activities together. And then on the same time, we can see that there is regulatory problems with this, when actually we can be need to be in charge of other actors, what they serve due to legislation. So I really hope that also the European Union can listen to this kind of system, so it make it easier to actually package these kind of sustainable activities, sustainable accommodation, sustainable travel together, to make it easier for the customer, make it easier to be a sustainable tourist, and hopefully even easier for us who are the operators or the destinations, to make it easier to be a sustainable hotel in the end.
Mm. You know, sometimes I have the feeling that the way we talk about sustainability is just like, okay, once stop flying and then you've saved the planet, but then it's actually only like a minor part of everything that we do wrong, I think.
But sorry, can I also build on Daniel's reasoning a bit? I really like what they are doing within the STF, because they are creating a tourist industry that's based on effort and not on relaxation. I think that we need to sort of make tourism not be about doing nothing. It should be about doing something, and in doing something there's no you can actually create other behaviors also. So very much is about changing behaviors and changing expectations on what vacation is. It's not about lying by the poolside, not having to take care of anything, and then just throwing your waste over your shoulder and expect someone else to pick it up and fly to Thailand 5 times a year. It's actually about the real, and this almost becomes a philosophical question to me. We need to make tourism be about something else, something more meaningful, rather than just doing as little as possible.
Yeah, quite right. Thank you. It's at the end of the webinar. I mean, time flies. Before I close it off, any final things that you would like to add? Something we didn't really talk about and you thought it was important? Famous last words.
I agree on the public transportation thing. I just want to add that also. It should be so easy to travel across Europe. Look at what they're doing in Germany now with the train card. That's one fixed price. That's all cities all across Germany, and how that really has helped everyone discover the country and build the domestic tourism at the same time as people leave their cars at home. It's a super beautiful initiative.
Okay, well, it's the end of the webinar. I hope that you had an enjoyable, little bit over an hour. Our next webinar will be on the 24th of August and will be about distribution and how to decrease distribution costs. We have speakers coming from Sendine, RateGain, Taktikon and more, and hope you can join us again. We will send a recording of the webinar to you as soon as possible. For participants in Scandinavia, in September, we return to Gothenburg, Copenhagen and Stockholm with our Revenue Forum seminar. Revenue Forum seminar currently runs in 12 cities and 10 countries, and it's for hotels who want to spend a half day of inspiration and networking free of charge. You can find all the information about our seminars and webinars on our website, revenueforum.net. Last but not least, on the 30th of January, it is time again for our Global Revenue Forum. This is a unique and hybrid event held simultaneously in Stockholm, London, Milan, as well as online. We have a book early rate available until the 31st of August. So if you want to have a full day of fantastic speakers, panels, interviews, workshops, and more, go to our website and book. And that was all from us for today. Hope to meet you again in our next webinar or one of the seminars or events we organize. This webinar was organized by Taktikon. Organizer is Anna-Marie Kubanski and editor is Johanna Alin. Sorry, Johanna. Thank you all for listening. Thank you all wonderful speakers.